Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And I want to start by saying thank you to Francis for presenting for us today. We really appreciate that. And thank you to everyone for joining Score Main today. And welcome to our 60-minute webinar on bookkeeping for small businesses. SCORE is a resource partner of the Small Business Administration that helps clients at every stage of the business cycle from pre-start to exit with workshops just like this one and small business mentoring one-on-one with a volunteer mentor. We want to thank the Maine Technology Institute, who is our fiscal sponsor for most of our workshops, for making this event possible. And again, thank you to Francis for presenting today. And we look forward to responding to your questions. Please feel free to use the Q&A window or to use the chat panel available to you to ask questions, and we will answer all the questions at the end of the workshop today. And if actually, that's it. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it on over.
Okay, great. Let me just get my screen set up to share. Good morning, everyone. I am really excited that you want to join this bookkeeping workshop. Bookkeeping is one of my favorite topics, and I love to help people with it. So today we're going to talk about simple bookkeeping for success and really focus on how you can feel more confident bookkeeping for your small business. So my goal today, I will feel successful if you are able to take away one piece of actionable information to take into your business for bookkeeping or even just for other admin tasks. So I'm Francis Keil. I am a bookkeeper and owner of Modern Bookkeeping Services. I am also a garden lover and a baking aficionado. I love making sourdough and other things. And I'm a former Spanish teacher. So that is a little bit about me. If you hear a very heavy footfall of a cat in the background, that's my cat. He also loves bookkeeping, so he might be trying to get in this room. Okay, a little disclaimer before we get started. The information in this presentation is for informational purposes only and should not be construed as tax, legal, financial advice in any way, shape, or form. So this is information only. Okay. Often people will hear that they need to do bookkeeping and they have no idea why. So I want to start with, why is bookkeeping important? Why are we even showing up today? Why do we need to do this? It's legally required. You need to keep records. It's super important for your tax filing. That's probably the reason that most of you are here today, if I had to guess, is you're realizing it's so important for tax filing. It really helps the process be so much easier for you and your accountant if everything is accurate, organized, properly categorized. It really helps you make sure that you get the appropriate return on your tax filing. So bookkeeping, super, super important for that piece. And information. This is the most overlooked piece of bookkeeping, in my opinion, is the information that it can provide you. It really allows you to understand your business better and to make better decisions. And that is a huge focus for me. It can help you determine how much to pay yourself. Big question that a lot of people have. It can help you focus in on any expenses that have gotten out of control or that maybe you haven't been even paying attention to. Maybe you had no idea they had been out of control. You can identify that and then make changes. It also allows you to plan for slow periods and seasonality. This is a huge piece in Maine in particular. There's so many seasonal businesses. Even if you maybe don't identify as a seasonal business, there are slower periods that often track year to year. If you know from your financial data what January, February practically look like, you can make better plans in July and August to account for that. So it can really help you identify those slow periods and make an action plan for it. Also allows you to hone in on your biggest revenue opportunities. Lots of businesses have multiple revenue streams, and if you can really see where more of your revenue is coming from or what part of your business is more profitable, you can focus more energy there and make more money. Good bookkeeping is also required for getting business loans. If you have accurate, up-to-date bookkeeping, super easy just to like print out a P&L and balance sheet that's up to date and take it to your loan officer and get a loan. If you don't, it can be a real scramble to get that done, or, you know, you're not as likely to get approved. And then a big one that no one thinks about, unless you're getting close to this, is the sale of your business. Someday, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 45 years from now, you might want to sell your business. And if you have really accurate financial records, the buyer is going to be able to see the value in your business. And they're going to have tangible financial records. They can track progress over time. They know that everything is accurate and up to date, and they're going to love that. Okay, so with all of that in mind, why we're doing it, we want to talk about what the goal is. What are we actually trying to achieve when we do bookkeeping? Keeping accurate financial records, easy, accurate, timely tax filing, getting that appropriate return, and learning about your business's past financial performance in order to plan and make changes for the future. Best practices for bookkeeping. Okay, I could say this every single slide probably. If you take one thing away, if you can keep your personal and business accounts separate, you are going to save yourself so much hassle. This is a real challenge. If you have things commingled, it can be a problem. For if you have an LLC, that can be a whole problem, but you really want to keep them separate so that you can easily track. If you have things combined, it is a headache to figure out what is business, what is personal. If you just have a separate account, even one separate account, that will save you so much internal struggle, especially if you're trying to go back and do, you know, like last year's bookkeeping now. If you just had one account, it would be way easier to do. So that's something I always encourage. Track and categorize expenses and income too. So in some way, you need to track and categorize expenses and income. We'll talk about that more later on. Maintain your supporting documentation for all income, purchases, expenses. Those can look like receipts, invoices, bills, check stubs, anything in that realm. So you want to maintain that supporting documentation in some way. Talk about that a little bit later. And then internal controls. This might not apply if you are a one-person business. This starts to apply when you grow bigger, but it's really best practice to have an internal control in place where the person writing the checks is not the same person reconciling the accounts. It's just really good to have two people kind of working together to kind of keep checks and balances in line. One person writing the checks, one person reconciling, and say, yep, our record keeping matches our bank balance. So that's something to think about as your business grows. And then reconciling the accounts. So reconciling accounts is really saying, does my record keeping match what's actually in my bank account? Are they the same? It's really easy as a business owner to be doing things, recording expenses, or to miss an expense. And then at the end of the month, you see it on your bank account and you go, oh, that didn't match my record keeping. Or maybe you double entered an expense in your record keeping, and that's not what happened on the bank statement. And so if you do this reconciliation, you match your bank statements to your record keeping every month. That really helps to keep things clean, organized, and good to go. Okay, last piece, best practice, is to get an accountant you trust and understand. This can be CPA, EA, tax pro, whatever, but you want to have someone that you trust and that you can understand what they're actually saying. There's so many accountant terms, and you want someone that can explain things to you in a way that you understand. And that's going to be different for everyone, right? We all have different ways of communicating, different pieces of information that really stick in our brain. Some people are visual. Some people really work in the numbers realm and love an Excel sheet. And so you want to have someone that you can connect with and get that information. If you don't understand what they're saying, it's going to be challenging for you to get all that delightful information that they have that can benefit your business so much. So make sure you trust them and understand each other. Okay, keeping it simple. This is one of my favorite things. Okay, so with the goal of accurate and timely bookkeeping, we want to keep things simple. Don't overcomplicate it. It's better to have a simple, accurate bookkeeping system than track 20 different types of services you offer, or to nail down all of the little details, right? We want to have it accurate and timely. We want to have good information, but we don't want to get overly complicated. And then repeatable. So you want to be able to follow the same steps or process every single month or every single week, however often you're doing your bookkeeping. You want to be able to do exactly the same tasks. Having it be repeatable and simple will allow you to have the best result. And then manageable. Have a really clear scope for yourself of what you need to actually do. You'll probably figure that out a little bit today. What do I actually need to be doing? And also how you can incorporate that into your own schedule and workflow. You have to have a plan for that, otherwise it's not going to happen. So the simpler you can keep it, the better. Okay, let's talk about how to do that. Okay, questions I always ask myself whenever I am getting a new system set up or learning something new, putting a new thing into practice is it simple and is it repeatable? So as you're doing this for yourself, those are questions you can ask. Simple and repeatable. Ensure that your business and personal accounts are separate. That's going to be really helpful in that simplification piece. Step one. Makes bookkeeping so much easier. And if you're an LLC, that commingling, the mixing of business and personal funds can open you up to some liability stuff. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Use simple categories. Keep it really on par with the general IRS categories, but make sure you actually understand what those mean. Of course, there's room for a little more customization here. I love to see a little customization because every business is different and has different needs and areas of focus. But the more you can stick to those simple categories, the easier it's going to be for you. Okay. One way you can kind of customize is if you struggle to remember what owner's distribution means, you can retitle it like owner's pay and personal expenses. Or if you would just consider gas expenses gas, use gas instead of fuel or instead of vehicle fuel. You know, little changes like that. It sounds so simple, but you want to make sure that the language works for you because you're going to be coming back to this month after month. And if you're having even a little bit of question, oh, wait, is owner's distribution this or that? You want it to come so quick to you and be easy. So however you can simplify, but also customize in the wording and what it means to you. And then systems and dedicated bookkeeping time. Having some systems in place, having actual bookkeeping time you spend, that is going to make it simple and repeatable for you. Bookkeeping is really, really hard to multitask, like near impossible. So if you can have some dedicated bookkeeping time, it's going to make your life so much easier. Okay, let's get into doing the bookkeeping. So bookkeeping tasks. Common bookkeeping tasks are receiving payments. That really means matching payments to the invoices or sales receipts, and then recording a bank deposit and actually depositing in the bank as well. Entering and paying bills, organizing your receipts, entering and categorizing transactions, and then reconciling the accounts to the bank statements. That's what I was talking about before. Do my records match my bank statement and vice versa? And then kind of higher level stuff would be tracking assets and liabilities. That's often something that your accountant will help you with. And preparing financial statements. So those are the bookkeeping tasks. Now let's get into the daily and weekly bookkeeping tasks, because this is really where the rubber meets the road, and probably the part of bookkeeping that you already interact with as a business owner. So getting these done accurately and timely is really going to be a super, super solid foundation of good bookkeeping. So accounts receivable, that's sending your invoices and sales receipts out. You're probably already doing that in some way. If you want to get paid, you're doing that in some way. Receiving and matching payments to your records. So when someone pays you, matching it to the invoice or sales receipt, making sure that everything is received. Recording deposits. So making sure that the money received is deposited and recorded in that deposit batch. And then the accounts payable side. So that's more on the bill pay side. Entering the bills as they come to you via mail or via email, however that happens. Paying those bills. And in some regards also expenses will sort of be in here, but more in the receipt management part. So receipt management is really about recording your expenses and also organizing and maintaining receipts, which can be a huge pain point for people, especially as their business scales and more people are involved. So having a good system for that again is simple and you can repeat over and over again is going to lead to a lot of success in the receipt management area. Okay. And transactions. So transactions and categorization are kind of the next step up from just that receiving and paying money, but they are part of that. So transactions and categorization are really the lifeblood of good bookkeeping. It's so important. And so when you're entering transactions, this is part of those essential bookkeeping tasks that we just saw on the last slide. So that's your accounts payable, accounts receivable, receipt management, expenses. That's all entering transactions. It's just entering different types of transactions. Have all the bills been entered? Have all the sales been entered? Have all expenses been entered? Okay. I would also add in here, has everyone paid you? And have all credit card and loan payments been entered? That's an important one because they often happen. A lot of people have them set up on automatic payment, and so it can be easy to just forget to record that. And then have it all payroll and personnel costs been entered, either any independent contractors you have, any people you have on payroll, making sure you enter those costs. They're often some of the biggest costs for a business, so you really want to make sure you have those accounted for. And then categorizing. So now that everything's entered, or as you enter it, depending on how your system works, we'll get into that in a little bit, you need to categorize the transactions. So what was this money earned from? Was it earned from selling a product? Was it earned from providing a service? What was the money spent on? What did you purchase with that $25? And making sure that you record it, again, using those categories. And then accurate categorization is such an important aspect of bookkeeping because that is what is going to allow your tax pro to file properly and get you the appropriate return. So again, utilizing those categories, making sure you understand them so that you can easily categorize all of your transactions using those same categories. Okay, we're going to go deeper into categorization because it is such an important part. So categorization kind of starts with the chart of accounts. So there are 5 main account types in the chart of accounts. Asset accounts. Asset accounts are where you record things that the business owns. Okay, that would be anything from excavator to a building. Even if you had some equipment, like I know some photographers have some really expensive equipment, so you want to make sure that that is recorded as an asset because that's something that the business owns. Liability accounts, so that's where you record things that the business owes. Loans, credit cards, things like that. Equity accounts are where you record funds that the business owner or owners bring into the business and take out of the business. So the equity accounts are about business owner funds. And revenue accounts, where you record money received by the business, the exciting part. And expense accounts, where you record money paid by the business to vendors, as expenses, as bills, etc. Most of the time in the day-to-day bookkeeping tasks, you are going to be focusing on your revenue accounts and your expense accounts. Money coming in, money going out in those 2 ways. That's going to be the main focus of pretty much probably 90% of your bookkeeping. So revenue accounts, and we're going to talk about the sub accounts or categories of the revenue. So sales of product, any product you sell, sales of services you provide, and interest earned. Those are going to be the most common ones you're going to see. A product, a service, interest earned. Miscellaneous income, sometimes there's other things like maybe you applied for a grant and you got grant money, that would fall in that kind of miscellaneous income. And then on the expense side, the categories we're looking at there's a lot of them. Costs of goods sold, so that's anything that you would have to purchase in order to sell your product. Advertising, freight, office expenses, rent, utilities, salaries, wages, or independent contractor payments, any labor payments, insurances, etc. Huge list here. You can go on the IRS website and see their standard categories and kind of go from there. Okay, setting yourself up for success. Choosing the right bookkeeping system is going to be so important for setting yourself up for success. Dealing with the dreaded receipts, having a real plan and system for that, having processes in place that you can follow over and over and over again, and time, making sure you set aside the right amount of time. Okay, so what do you use? How do you actually do the bookkeeping? We're going to talk about choosing the right system for your bookkeeping system for your business. This is really important to choose something that works well for you. Okay, it's going to be the foundation of your bookkeeping. You want to think about what functions do you need as a business owner. It's going to be different for everyone. There's going to be some must-haves. There's going to be some nice-to-haves. There's going to be some, I don't care about that at all. It's irrelevant. And then what level of tech confidence do you have? You don't want to choose something that feels so fancy and detailed and overwhelming that you can't even start, right? You want to choose something that is in alignment with whatever level of tech confidence you have. If you feel really confident, then that's great. You have tons of options open to you, but you want to make sure you choose something that you're comfortable with so that you can use, or maybe you get a little training on if you're not comfortable. And then another thing to think about is it scalable as my business grows? So if you have a plan for growing your business, is the bookkeeping system you're choosing going to be able to grow and shrink with you. If you're okay switching systems in a few years, then this isn't something you have to think about as much. But if you really want to just stay consistent and keep it simple, 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 you want to choose something that you can see is going to work with your business as it grows. Okay. First option you have is manual. So good old pen and paper. This requires more setup, maintenance, and know-how. It's probably the most time consuming because you have to do everything manually, but it's awesome if you don't want to use technology, are patient, and have great organizational and paper management skills. You can get yourself a really nice bookkeeping setup, some journals, and you'll be good to go. Another option is spreadsheet. This is great for basic bookkeeping. I see a ton of people starting here. It's ideal for small businesses just starting out. If you're just kind of like doing this on the side for now and it's just you, perfect. It's really good if you are mostly tracking those revenue and expense account types. It's really more difficult to track assets, liabilities, and equity in spreadsheets. It can be done, but it has a more complex setup, which if you're an Excel wizard, you'll love. But if you're not, you probably want to choose a different system, especially if you have a lot of like heavy equipment that needs to be tracked, things like that. Spreadsheet is really good for service-based businesses. You will still need to manually enter and categorize all your transactions, so there's definitely a little more time consuming there, but it can provide you basic profit and loss information, and it's great if you are just starting out with a small, simple business model, have no inventory to track. You can track that on a spreadsheet, but it's a little more complicated. And are comfortable with tech basics. You understand how a spreadsheet works or you're willing to learn, this is a great option for you. I have a basic bookkeeping worksheet that I put together. So you can click this link when the slide deck goes out after this. And there's a video tutorial on there about how to set it up for your business and how to get going. So if you want to use that, you just need something simple to get started. That's a good basic spot to start. Okay, then you have the accounting software realm. So more things are done for you with accounting software. That's the thing to keep in mind. More things are done for you. Transactions are imported automatically, mostly. It's easier to reconcile. There's some like cool tools in there that make that part easier. You get professional financial reports, which means that if you do need to apply for a loan, you could use a spreadsheet profit and loss to do that. As long as it's accurate and up to date and matches your bank statements, you're good. But with the accounting software, it's even easier, looks more professional, that sort of thing. Accounting software also has invoicing built in. So if you are looking to do invoicing, this can be a great way to combine your accounting software and your invoicing in one streamlined place instead of having them be separate entities that you have to kind of coordinate between, which can save you time. And then receipt management is included, I would say in some form, to varying degrees of success, I would say, but they do offer receipt management tools, which can be really helpful if you're looking to have a more digital way to bring everything together. Okay, so a few actual options for you. Wave accounting is one, and again, these are linked in the slide deck, so you can, when you get that, you'll see that. Wave accounting is free, has a really robust free option, and then like a $16 a month option that's even better. It's great for intermediate bookkeeping and businesses that need invoicing. So if you need invoicing and just intermediate bookkeeping stuff, this is a great spot to start. The one thing I will say about Wave is it might be hard to scale depending on how your business is set up. So that's something to think about, but it's an awesome starting place. QuickBooks Online is probably the most popular option, super well known in the US, really easy to find help, resources, education, YouTube videos on QuickBooks Online. There's many tiers of service and pricing levels, kind of from a basic package all the way up. But it can get expensive depending on what you need. So that is something to be aware of before you like go full in on that. If you're doing job costing, for example, as a contractor, you might want to not utilize all of those features to start out. Xero. So Xero is another option, very comparable to QuickBooks Online. Super well known in the UK and Canada. Australia, New Zealand, all pretty much run on Xero, whereas in the US, it's a very QuickBooks Online focused. Xero's not as well known here, which could be an issue. Just not as many accountants are comfortable using it, and there's not as many resources. But it has many similar features to QuickBooks Online with more robust receipt management aspect. Some better pricing options. I feel like they offer a little bit more for the price, and they have great customer support. So there's benefits and drawbacks to each option, but that's a good place to start. Okay, let's get into receipt management, the dreaded receipts, controlling the monster. So this is something that is a big pain point for lots and lots of business owners. So let's get into it a little bit. So you can go old school. Old school, you can just have a box of receipts, or you could do an actual file folder. Organize them by date. That's going to be the easiest way for you to keep track of or find what you need. If you don't have them organized by a date, you just have them like thrown in a container, it's going to be a nightmare if you actually need to find anything. So the more you can organize it by date, the easier it will be for you. And also include some notes on the receipt. This is really helpful, even if you jot down like what account it was paid from, or maybe you go out for a meal with a client to just write like meal with so-and-so. Very helpful for you later because we tend to forget everything once it's like 30 days behind us. Another option is to scan and store your receipts. This is where I see most people going. Scan receipts as they come in or scan them weekly or monthly. Hopefully you don't do it all at once in January because that would be overwhelming, but it is possible. And so just if you're going to do this, I would probably opt for weekly or monthly, depending on your volume of receipts. Monthly is probably good. Just keep track of them, keep them in one place, and then set aside a bit of time, scan them all, and then make sure you have some sort of backup. So whether that's cloud storage or stored on your computer with a secondary backup, make sure you have a backup of the scanned receipts somewhere. And again, I would organize them by account and by year or month, somehow in date order and somehow by account, depending on how you want to set it up. If you have a credit card and a bank account, for example, I would just have credit card receipts, bank account receipts, and then a folder for each month within a folder for each year. And then the other option for receipt management is incorporated into your accounting software. So if you're going to use Wave, QuickBooks Online, Xero, there's an option for bringing it in automatically. You pretty much just scan it on an app on your phone or forward it via email to QuickBooks or Xero, whatever. And then you can really easily in the software match that receipt to a bill or expense, and it'll link them and have the attachment there. So you can always go back and view. I would say even if you're doing this option or the scan and store, having notes on your receipts is super, super helpful. So I would say that tip applies all the way through. Okay, a last option here for receipt management is to use HubDoc or Dext or something similar. These are independent receipt management softwares. So it's all they do. They're very, very robust, but again, it's going to be another expense and another thing that you have to like manage. So with simplicity in mind, think about what's going to be the most simple for your business. Okay, I'm gonna take a sip of water. And let's get into processes. One of my favorite topics. Okay, so easy processes that work for you. Again, this is all about success, setting yourself up for success in bookkeeping, making it repeatable, making it simple, making sure that you are successful and not feeling overwhelmed every time you think about bookkeeping. One process that I really like in all areas of my life is left to right. You can also do right to left. This just means you put all papers that you need to process or enter on your left in some sort of stack or system. And then once you enter it into your spreadsheet or into your manual journal or into your accounting software, you put it on the right after it's done. And then in a batch, you can organize all those papers on your right into their correct storage locations. I use the same system all the time in baking. So if I am getting out a recipe and actually following it, I will put all of my ingredients, I'll get all of my ingredients out and I'll put them all on my left-hand side. I'll have my bowl right in front of me. And then as I add things in, as I measure it out, the ingredients that I'm finished with go on my right. And then they're going to go back in my pantry. I know that I've already entered them into my bowl. I'm not going to add my salt twice because of this system. So same thing applies for bookkeeping, and it's a really helpful, simple thing. Repeatable. So can you create a standard monthly or even weekly bookkeeping checklist to follow? I do this first, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I reconcile. This is great because you won't skip steps or get overwhelmed when sitting down to do your bookkeeping. You know exactly what you have to do in order, and you're just going to sit down and follow the list and check things off. I love this. And I think it's a great way to reduce that overwhelm. If you feel any overwhelm by your bookkeeping, having any sort of checklist, even if it's super like 3 items, super simple, it'll just help you focus and get on track. Folders. So whether you have physical folders or digital folders, having your folders set up in a way that works for you and makes sense is going to be super helpful. An important part of bookkeeping is locating documents and knowing where everything is. So digital folder organization example, I'll show that up here. So if you have a checking account, and this is the folder in blue, you have to pretend it's a folder. Within that folder, there's going to be a folder for 2023. And then within that 2023 folder, there's going to be statements for each month. And then within the 2024 folder, you're going to start accumulating statements for those months. And then you'd have a separate folder for your savings account. And within there by year, of course, and then within each yearly folder, you'll have all the statements for that year. Even if you vary this system at all, this is what I use personally and for my clients. Even if you vary it a little bit, how you have it set up, having some system like this where you know exactly where everything goes and you know exactly where to go when you need to find November checking statement from 2021 will save you a lot of time in the long run. Okay, speaking of time, dedicated bookkeeping time. So the only way to actually do all this stuff, the only way to get it done is to do it. You have to actually do it, and doing it requires time. So how are you going to use that time well? If you can schedule a time in your calendar each week or each month That's going to help you so much. I would recommend limiting it to like a 1 hour time span. Bookkeeping is hard to do in long stretches, especially if it's not your favorite task or it's not really a zone of genius for you. You don't want to like say, I'm going to bookkeep for 4 hours every 6 months in one block. I'm just going to do it because your mind will turn to jelly and you won't have a good result, which is the whole point. So limit it to 1 hour time spans, even half an hour, 15 minutes. I know some people that just do 15 minutes a week and they do it at the same time every week. That really helps. So consistency, that's the same part. So scheduling it for the same time, maybe you do. The second Friday of every month, I do my bookkeeping for an hour. I have that scheduled in. That is really going to be a good habit. Again, small chunks. That kind of goes along with the 1 hour time span thing. But make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in setting reasonable expectations about what you're going to do. Just entering bills for January. I'm just going to do that. That's a very achievable task versus saying, in my 1 hour of time, I'm going to do all of my January bookkeeping, or I'm going to do all of my 2023 bookkeeping. It's going to be overwhelming and you're probably going to feel disappointed. So set small, achievable goals for yourself. Do it in small chunks. And then finally, make it enjoyable. So a lot of people love bookkeeping once they make it enjoyable for themselves, once they realize, oh, this is the time that I get to myself to just listen to some great music. I follow my checklist, I have a cup of coffee, or, I like to have a seltzer at the end of the day. So have a seltzer, do something fun for yourself, maybe go to a different space than you're normally in. Go out to a cafe or go somewhere else. Really enjoy this time so that you look forward to it, because then you're going to keep doing it, and continuing to do it is going to lead to the best result. Okay, always remember the goal. So the goal here is to keep accurate financial records, having that easy, accurate, timely tax filing, getting the appropriate return, and learning about your business's past financial performance. This is what you always want to be coming back to. Is my effort reaching this goal? What do I need to change so that I can meet these goals? So that I can have easy, accurate, timely tax filing next year? What do I need to do? Okay, so that is all for my presentation. If you want to access the basic bookkeeping worksheet, you can click that link there. You can contact me, and I think my information will also be sent out after. But I would love to hear some of your questions. So if you have any questions, you can add them to the chat, and Dan will lead us through that part.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that was very focused on like the easy to digest parts that business owners really need to focus on. And I think that was very helpful. Thank you for presenting today.
Yeah, of course. I love SCORE. So anything that I can do to support this community.
And we do already have quite a few questions. And as Francis mentioned, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A panel, and we will answer them here today. We had a few questions roll in, and you answered a few of them as you were doing your presentation, but
Okay.
I do want to kind of go through every question that we had today. From Kathleen, we had, what are 3 online accounting software programs that you'd recommend? Presumably, I would guess Wave, QuickBooks, and Xero, right?
You got it. Those are the 3. Yeah.
And from Maggie, we have, is inventory an asset, or how would you account for inventory when bookkeeping?
Yeah, so depends on how you have your business set up. A lot of, some businesses do inventory monthly, and that is an asset of the business. But some businesses just choose to do it yearly. I would say that's probably the most manageable way to do it, because you have to take inventory, make some adjustments. If you had any inventory that was maybe damaged or lost, you have to account for that. So to me, it's a good yearly task unless you have a big focus on inventory and it's really important.
And from Duncan, this is a really good question. If you did want to shop around for different bookkeeping softwares, do you have a place that you would recommend doing that, or how would you recommend going about doing that?
Um, Actually, if you follow the links in the slide, those I think will take you to all of the pricing pages. I like to just have all the pricing pages pulled up and look at each tier and what it includes. Like if you need invoicing, okay, what level do I need to have for invoicing? What other services will I get? Is that going to meet what I need? That's just how I would do it. Go within whatever is going to work for your price range. You don't want to overextend yourself, but these also aren't super expensive softwares. So just choosing the right one and really having the comparison out on the pricing pages, that's the only place that they lay out. This is exactly what this includes. So that's how I like to do it.
It's a great answer, and I think it goes back to what you were saying in your slides. You really have to know the difference between like what are the nice to haves and what are the have to haves.
Yes, definitely. So maybe before you look at those pricing pages, write your list of your must-haves and your nice-to-haves, so that you don't get swooned into something you don't need.
And from Kelly, we have, what do you think about Zoho, an accounting software? I think about it because it has a CRM function as well.
Yeah, and I've heard the CRM function is really good. I haven't used Zoho on the accounting software side, but I'm in a big community of bookkeepers, and I've heard mixed things. So I think it would depend on what functions you need. And that would require a little more research into, okay, this is what I need. Does this offer it? And also, are you going to be able to get the support you need if you run into an issue? Like me not knowing how to help you in that situation might be a problem. Are you going to be able to find someone locally or that you know who's also using it? When you run into a problem, you can call them and say, hey, I need help. Because the customer support lines are great, but it's no substitute for having someone that really knows you and your business and how the software works.
I think that's a great answer. Especially, I mean, especially if you need a CRM, I can see how that can be appealing. But
Yeah, definitely.
remembering that support is like huge, especially someone who knows how to use the software that you know.
Yep. And I do like having everything all in one place. So that if you do need a CRM, like I can totally see the appeal of that, and it's definitely worth exploring.
And from Kathleen, we have, does Wave offer good options for pulling management reports?
Decent. I wouldn't use the word great, but it's pretty easy to do. And so if you just need like basic management reports, yes. If you want more detail or want to be able to customize it more, that's more where QuickBooks and Xero would come in. But if you're talking about just like basic management reports, you can easily pull them. Yes.
All right. And we just had from Paul, you did a great job, knocked out of the park. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Paul.
From Jonah, we have, how's it best to track reimbursable expenses? I bill clients for different expenses. Should I put the expenses in my expense report and track it there, or track it as reimbursement and income?
Okay, so this is for billable expenses to the customer.
That seems to be it. Yeah.
Okay, so in my mind, when I hear reimbursement, I think about reimbursing employee expenses, which is a whole separate thing. But if we're talking about billable expenses to a customer, I would say this comes up a lot with my construction related clients. Um, Usually they're buying materials and then they track who they bought all the materials for. So you do need a little extra level of tracking there, even just writing it at the top of the receipt. This was for so-and-so customer. It's still an expense of the business. You want to track it in supplies and materials, but you also want to keep track of how much supplies and materials did I buy for this client? And then you want to make sure you're marking it up and invoicing them for that marked up price. If you use QuickBooks Online, there's a certain level where you can track billable expenses. So as the expense comes in, you can just tick the billable box and then put the customer name. That can be really good for this if you want it to just be the easiest way possible, but very easy to do in a spreadsheet as well.
Thank you. We have a lot of questions that rolled in, so I'm going to kind of cover a few
Great.
things that kind of came in. CRM is a customer relationship management software. So that's just a way for you to manage your information about your clients. Um, we will be sending the presentation out via email after the event. And we had several other messages just saying it was a great presentation and thank you so much.
Thank
And
you for showing up on a Wednesday morning to talk about bookkeeping.
riveting.
Yeah, it is.
It was a very well done, especially I think it was at the level of entrepreneurs, which is very helpful.
Great,
But we still have quite a few other questions here.
great.
This is a good one from Jody. Many bookkeepers don't like QuickBooks Online. She uses desktop. What and why is your preference?
So I think this is pretty well known at this point, but QuickBooks is phasing out desktop pretty aggressively, and so it's pretty clear that that's going to happen. If you're on desktop and you're comfortable with it and it's working for you, I would stick with that. I use QuickBooks Online personally because I support my clients 100% remotely. And that's the easiest way for me to work on their books every single day without having to go to their office. And I'm able to help more people that way because I'm not driving around in the middle of winter. So that's why I use QuickBooks Online. The features in online have become more robust over the years. There's certain things that are better on desktop, but that's my personal rationale.
Uh, we have two questions kind of relating to accounting and tax services. One is just how do I find an accountant, and the other one is how do you know what to pay quarterly in like a service industry where this person does upholstery.
Okay, so finding an accountant. This time of year is going to be really hard to find an accountant. I really try and keep a big list of accountants accepting new clients. I don't know any that are accepting new clients right now. If you're looking for an accountant, I recommend you look in like October for the following year, because they'll have already filed their extension returns at that point, and so they're not as busy. October, November, you can get in and meet with them. Aside from that, I would really ask around like what other business owners, what accountants are they using? What accountants are in your area, and just calling up and talking to people if you can get them on the phone. But it is hard to find an accountant right now, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of score clients have issues with at the moment.
Yeah, yeah, can be a challenge.
From Catherine, I have a service business. How would you deal with clients who simply do not pay?
Oh, okay, this is hard. I usually have some sort of, if I'm doing accounts receivable follow-up for people, I have a process that I follow. So if it goes overdue, they get a reminder. After the reminder, they get a second reminder, and I space them out by a week because I don't like to hound people too much. After the second reminder, they get a phone call. Hey, this is Francis calling from so-and-so. You have a few overdue bills. Is there anything I can do to help you get those bills paid on time? Would it be helpful if I extended an option to pay by credit card? What can we do to kind of work that out? And then if nothing happens there, then it's kind of a continuation to call them. It can be a challenge though, and I would say don't be afraid to talk to people on the phone and talk it out with them. And you can even say like, it seems like you're having trouble paying your bills. What can I do to help in this process? Can I have do you want a payment plan? Because ultimately you want to make sure you're receiving what is owed to you. But as you know, as a business owner, it's not always easy and people can have difficult situations. And so to be understanding to that as well.
Totally. And if, you know, some people can be concerned about that kind of conflict. There are other recourses that you can take.
Yes.
But as you mentioned, the best thing is to kind of have a process in place and just kind of hope that it was an error or a mistake, or maybe they didn't see it.
Yeah, and to just, have that kind of thoughtful follow-up. If it gets to a really bad situation, then you might wanna hire an outside firm or, then you get into like this selling debt to a debt collector type thing. But to me, that's far down the road and usually it's resolved sooner than that.
And we have you heard of the accounting software called Manager Accounting Software? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not very familiar with that, no.
So Gail had found this software. It's they have an online free version, so she was just wondering if
Cool.
you may have heard of it as a tool. But Gail, I would recommend just kind of looking into some of the other softwares and see what works for you.
Yeah, and Gail, I'll look into that because I'm curious. So
And looks like we have a couple more here, and that should really put us at time. Kelly said you are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your deep knowledge in a way that we can follow. She's gonna hit the coffee shop and get in a session of bookkeeping.
I love it. It's great news.
Um, and anonymous attendee says, for non-paying customers, another tip: make your contract clear and ensure that you don't work for free. That's a really
Yeah.
great point. Another thing that I used to do when I owned a cleaning company is you can always require 50% upfront as well.
Yep.
That's a great way to kind of like almost hedge your bet on that.
Yep. For sure.
And so that looks like it's it. Thank you so much, Francis, for presenting to us today. It was obviously a hot button topic, and we hope that we might be able to have you back in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I would love that. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending and have a great day.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye.